what to measure at the end of a public relations campaign. What are the metrics? What are the key indicators? So keep listening. This is what we're talking about in this episode.
Bonjour. Hello, everyone. I'm NATA, host of the NATA PR School podcast. You're a successful entrepreneur or marketing manager, and you're about to launch a new product or service, or you've been selling your goods for quite some time, but you want to learn how to increase your visibility, get known, and reach more clients? At NATA PR, we deal with real clients every day, and we'll teach you simple, fun, and honest PR solutions. You'll learn easy steps to combine PR to social media right now. Keep listening and let's get started.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to episode 128 of the NATA PR School podcast. Public relations, KPI, and matrix. As I just mentioned, I'll be talking about measurements, which is step number 5 of the NATA PR model of how to create a public relation campaign. If you don't have the model, you can download it in the show notes at the end of this podcast, just below. You should be able to click on the link and let me know if you can't get it. I'll be happy to send it to you. So today we're talking about matrix, of course, choosing matrix. And how matrix is, I really believe that, simply the best tool for moving forward and, having success, moving towards your success, getting the success you want. As some of you certainly know, if you've been listening to this podcast, I'm fascinated by professional coaching and this industry, how its growth in recent years is just exponential. I've been using myself professional coaches every year, probably for more than 10 years now that I think of it. I've invested a lot in coaches, but you know what? Oh my God, they've helped me generate so much results. So when you use a coach, of course, it's to make progress and measure your results. So now I know. I've been reluctant. For many years, I didn't really wanted to fix myself like very specific, measurable objectives. And yes, I was moving forward, but not as fast as I wanted. So one year, many years ago, I decided, let's try this for fun. I'm a curious human being. And sometimes I see people doing things and I'm like, it seems to work for them. Maybe I should try. That's why being curious can be a great advantage sometimes. And I've been using, as I told you, coaches for a long time. And in 2020, I've decided to become a coach myself and get my certification from one of a great school out there. It's a recent school, but it's called the Life Coach School, if you want to know, founded by Brooke Castillo. It's a great school, really. And for me, then, choosing and setting targets that can be measured is simply now the best tool, really. It's what our amazing brains can use. When you decide on a certain objective, then you tell your brain, hey, brain, this is where we're going. And your brain's going to find solutions and help you get where you want to go. If you're at the beginning and you are deciding on one or two indicators because you're alone, which is completely fine. You can only have one indicator. You don't need to have 10. One indicator can be enough. Like you've decided that you want to be featured in one magazine in the next 3 months. That's an objective. So whether you've decided to do your own PR or you're working with an agency, you know how important it is to set quantifiable objectives you can measure, measurable targets. What we like to call key performance indicators, KPIs. That's what it is, key performance indicators. You've probably already heard the term, especially if you've been working with agencies. It simply means defining what you want to measure, key factors. What are you going to measure and where do you want to go? But what do we measure, right? You can decide. It can be the traffic on your website at the end of the PR campaign. So make sure you measure it before. But yeah, I know now with Google Analytics, you can certainly go back. But depending if it's a whole year, it's always fun to go and see what it is and measure it at the end. It can be new subscribers on your list. You know how precious these emails are, capturing these emails and having them on your own list. Maybe you want more. And PR can really help you do that. Maybe it's simply a number of articles in online magazines. It could also be the same thing, a number of interviews in trade publications, 1 or 2 interviews in the next, 3-6 months in major newspapers. You can also decide to number you desire of influencers for an organic campaign. How many influencers do you want to convince? Because you're not paying them. That means you have to contact them. You have to propose your products to them. Maybe you say, well, I want to convince 5 influencers in the next month or so. Number of impressions at the end of a campaign. This is what we use. It's a big key indicator in public relations. It's kind of the potential of people who could have seen your products, could have read your interview on the website, in the newspaper or magazine. So number of impressions. Sometimes that are a huge number because what we do is we add the readership, let's say, of a magazine plus another magazine. But it's a great way to measure from one campaign to another. But if you are a solopreneur and you are, as I like to say, alone in your living room when I first started my PR agency, well, start with very simple key indicator, small and simple objective. You can decide to have one major interview in the next 6 months. One magazine, one trade magazine, you see where I'm going? Just to get the ball rolling and kind of have the feeling of what's happening out there. And of course, ROI, the famous return on investment, can be a KPI. There are so many others. I'm just giving you some examples just to help you figure out what you can measure and what would be interesting for you. So what you choose to measure, the famous indicators, can vary. It can be very different even from one campaign to the other sometimes. And as I said, if you're alone, take 1 or 2 indicators, very small numbers. Set yourself, targets that are easy to measure and to keep track. You can start with, as I said in the previous podcast, with a very small list. Maybe 3, 5 on your list. If you really took the time to find the right, what I call the real influencers, the real journalists who really talk about your particular product, for example, or service, your chances are way bigger that they will be talking about you, right? So, if someone gives you a list of 1,000 names, if they're not from your sector of activities or they never talk about your kind of product, don't send them anything. Resist. Just go online and find 2 or 3 or 5. Use Google. You can go back on some of the episodes if you want to know how to build a list. It can be very simple. Between you and me, achieving 100% of the targets you set is not crucial, really, because especially if you are just at the beginning, it's going to be really hard for you to have something, that's going to be happening 100% because it's the first time or you haven't done it for a long time. What is vital, though, is really finding what works and what can be changed and improved. Otherwise, why do you measure? It's not getting your goal or achieving your target. Really, more than that is, you along the way, you adjust. You need more people. You haven't found the right people. So public relations is not an exact science. And that's probably why it keeps me so interested, why I still love it so much. So let's go back to measure, because I really, and you know how I like to give you some example and definitions. I really like what Alain Fernandez says about metrics. He's talking about economics here, but it applies to us. Here's what he says. You don't measure to control, but to steer. In corporate approach, we're too quick to associate the terms metrics and indicators with control. Here he goes again. He says, you must move away from the approach of upstream planning, downstream reporting, and move toward the dynamic and responsive approach, measure, act, react. So you don't do all these put and decide on some key indicators to control. No, you do that to be able to measure, act, and react and change something if it's not working. I really love that. Because when you think about it, measuring has to answer one of your questions. If your target turns out to be hard to measure, like increasing your visibility, this is super vague. It's even more important than to make it quantifiable, measurable. In other words, something like writing 3 articles on the company history, you see? So voila. So I hope now you're convinced that measuring is so crucial and having those key indicators, decide on 1 or 2 or 3. So today we're talking about step number 5 and in the model that you can download here below this episode. So hopefully you've had the time to think about what's happening in your business, how you can measure your results, and that this little PR break was really an inspiration for you today. And I hope you'll be joining me next week. À la semaine prochaine.
Hey, you want to learn more about how to implement PR strategies? Head on to natapr.com and get on our list. You will also receive the NATA PR model on how to create a successful PR campaign. If you want to become a client, just send us an email to nata@natapr.com. Talk to you next week. À la semaine prochaine.